guys. Thank you for that. And it's time now for our community segment on this Tuesday morning. Ray O'Connell is here to chat Chet Call. And today we are talking about if you should go boots on the ground in Laredo, Texas, specifically when it comes for cross-border freight. Mary, thanks for being here today. Let's talk about it. Do you think that brokerages really don't have a leg in succeeding in cross-border freight unless you have that headquarters in the area you're serving?
I mean, yes and no. So I think that definitely in Laredo, there has to be a presence of some sort, whether it's, you have a small office or you go all the way to build a warehouse that you can serve as one of the, you cross the border, you drop it off at the warehouse, and then, that carrier goes back to the border. Just with the sheer nature of how the cross-border facilities are compared to, or with U.S. and Mexico compared to U.S. and Canada, because with U.S. and Canada, that Canadian driver can come into the U.S., deliver that load, and then go straight back. So whereas in Mexico, it's a little different. There's a handoff and everything like that. So I definitely think that it's if you don't have a priority, if putting something on the map in Texas isn't a priority, then you better have a pretty strong contingent somewhere else in the country that is focused exclusively on, getting that freight from one of those cross-border facilities and moving it throughout the country. I would definitely say that, if you don't physically have a facility there, then you better have a pretty strong partnership or a pretty strong co-broker agreement with someone that does have a facility, because there's so much freight down there that not doing anything and just, focusing on the rest of the country, it's just going to be money that you leave on the table.
And Mary, when looking at that region, do you suggest that someone really start to specialize in that cross-border aspect, or is there enough activity just in the surrounding area now to really not have to get involved in the cross-border, but maybe once these goods move across the border?
I think it depends on whatever works for your business. Obviously, if you are a small to medium-sized brokerage and you want to stay there, it doesn't really make sense to, set up shop for a warehouse or a facility and, get heavily involved in cross-border freight. It just kind of makes sense that you would pick up freight that's down there and, maybe work on getting a stronger customer base in Texas, because you still want to grow, but you want to not necessarily grow to billions and billions of dollars. So I would say that, that if you're a smaller or medium one and you're pretty happy with your size, then I would just work on finding some customers that are based in Texas and, have a little bit more to offer you, and they can increase your volumes a little bit. But I would say that if, if you're looking to get that next step, it's kind of now's the time, especially with the rise of reshoring in Mexico and a lot of automotive manufacturing. I would say that it's kind of the easiest time to get in and make sure that you are getting, you are getting these opportunities, you are getting the chances to do this, because if you want to grow, it's going to be one of the easiest ways to do it over the next few years, because as we all know, it's pretty bleak out there for some freight opportunities. So I think it's kind of about making your own opportunities, more or less.
So, Mary, of course, now people are going to hear this and they're going to go, I should go to Laredo, right? Do we look at running a risk of seeing this massive influx of people going down there and then it being too much too soon? Or do we think that there is enough freight that's coming across the Mexican border to go around? Should people maybe look at diversifying into other border towns, thinking like El Paso, Eagle Pass, these places that aren't necessarily developed but have the potential to be the next Laredo?
I would say Laredo right now would be my number one stop. But again, if it would depend on how long it would take to get your operations up and running. It depends on kind of what you want to do, because, you don't want to spend 2 years building the facility and then that's kind of going to be too late, So, but definitely other spots in Texas, because, or at least maybe the Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, anything along that border with Mexico, because eventually the Port of Laredo will get very congested and it will get full and people will start looking at some of the alternatives. And it would, what a chance to be the first in that market, because that would be amazing. But I would definitely say that, having something down there, because, Mexico is, for the 7th straight month, the leading trade partner with the United States. Like, they've beat out Canada, they've beat out China, they've beat out everything. It is Mexico now. So I think to not have some sort of game plan, or to not have some sort of possibility of a facility or some kind of operations down there, I think it's going to be a pretty huge missed opportunity.
And we're looking at all of this growth here. Mary, when talking about, of course, nearshoring and all this activity in Mexico, are there any segments or industries that you're seeing the most activity come from?
I would definitely say the automotive and anything that has to do with cars, trucks, anything like that, because that is what we've seen a lot invest in Monterrey, Mexico. That's where we've seen, I think Tesla has a plant, someone else has a plant. There's a lot of plants happening. And then there's also, we've seen John Deere set up shop down there. So I'd say anything that has to do with mechanical or automotive parts, or full completed cars, I would definitely say that if you are a 3PL or freight brokerage that specializes in automotive, you absolutely need to be down there. To not be down there would be a huge disservice to not only your customers, but others as well.
So if you're a brokerage and maybe you have set up shop and have operations that succeed and do pretty well across the Canadian border, is there any type of correlation or any type of symmetry between cross-border operations up north versus cross-border operations down south? And does that make a move maybe a little easier if you are experienced in that?
Kind of, but see, the thing is that cross-border freight with Canada works fundamentally differently than Mexico. So there's not a lot of need for those facilities because for the most part, loads that come across from Mexico, they have to stay within a certain range of the border, and then that's why there's so many of those border facilities, those customs facilities that kind of expedite that. They go through the border, they get dropped off, and then that carrier goes back. Whereas with Canada, that driver can deliver into the United States wherever they're supposed to go, and then they go back to Canada. So it works fundamentally differently. So that's why we don't see a lot of these facilities at borders with Canada. So as to why it works that way, I don't know. It's just always kind of been. If someone knows, please let me know, because I've always been curious about it. But yeah, I would definitely say that we're not going to see that up in Canada. But we are going to. I would be surprised if we see such an aggressive rise out of shipments coming from Canada, just because it seems that everyone is exporting or everyone is setting up shop in Mexico versus Canada.
And Mary, if we want to catch you talking more about this subject or check your next episode of Check Call, how can people do that?
Just keep watching Freight Waves right now. Stay on the YouTube channel, hit that bell, get those notifications when we go live or new episodes come out. And you can get Check Call today at 12:30. And then we also have the newsletter that comes out at 2.
All right, Mary, thank you for joining us, and you'll be back with us on Friday morning for Running on Ice. Right now, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be back with another look at the weather right after this.